All right, let's get right into it. We tend to think of our beliefs as these, well, permanent, solid parts of who we are, right? But what if they're not? What if they're more like the architecture of a house? A structure we live in, sure, but one we can also choose to renovate, redesign, or heck, even rebuild from the ground up. Today, we're going to grab the blueprints and do exactly that. So let me start with a question that gets right to the heart of all of this. And if you're a founder, a leader, listen up. Just think about this for a second. What if that one nagging belief, the one that keeps you stuck in that waiting room for your own success, what if it was never even yours to begin with? What if someone else installed it in your head years ago?
And that leads us right to our first section. See, the tricky part is that often, without even realizing it, we become the architect of our own cage. We build this whole structure from beliefs that just weren't designed for the person we are today or the leader we're trying to become.
So let's talk about what I call inherited beliefs. The best way to think about them, they're like outdated blueprints. The ones handed down from parents, teachers, maybe an early mentor. And look, they probably had the best intentions, right? But they might have designed a small, safe little room for you when you were really meant to build a skyscraper. And as a founder, that's a huge problem. It means you're trying to run this massive, innovative company using these old, cramped, totally inadequate plans. And here's the real trap, isn't it? We carry these stories, these old blueprints, around for so long that they start to feel like, well, like truth. Their familiarity feels like validity. We get so comfortable with them, we mistake that comfort for confirmation that they're actually true. And that is exactly how you end up stuck in that waiting room, absolutely convinced you're not ready for the next level. When the reality is, you've just outgrown the house. But, living inside this faulty architecture, it isn't free. Not by a long shot. It comes with a hidden cost, a kind of tax on your ambition and your agency. It's what I think of as the high cost of constantly asking for permission from a ghost. Let me give you a real-world example. A friend of mine told me she still hears this old teacher's voice in her head, a voice that constantly told her she just wasn't capable. And look, this isn't just about lacking confidence. For a founder, this is a critical operational failure. Can you imagine trying to make a bold executive decision when you've got this old, irrelevant consultant in your head whispering that you can't do it? That voice creates drag on every single thing you do. It slows down innovation and it completely undermines your authority. And this is exactly what I call the permission tax. Think about it. Every single time you hesitate, or you second-guess a decision, or you shrink your ambition because of that old voice, you're paying a tax. It's a real cost. You're giving away your most valuable resources, your energy, your focus, your executive authority, all to a story that frankly has no place on your company's balance sheet. So let's break down the mechanics here, because it's super important. On one side, you've got outsourcing belief. This is basically when you're running on autopilot, living by that old teacher's story, constantly looking for external validation from a narrative that isn't even yours. It's a straight-up mechanical failure of ownership. But on the other side, you have owning belief. And this is all about actively, consciously choosing your story, your rules. See, this isn't just about feeling more confident. It's about taking back control. It's about you stepping back into the CEO seat of your own mind. Okay, so the big question is, how do we stop paying this ridiculous tax and actually reclaim our authority? Now, this isn't about spending years in therapy. We're talking about a strategic, architectural protocol, a clear, repeatable process for demolishing that old structure and building something solid in its place. And the whole belief reset, it starts the moment you make a conscious choice. It's that moment when you finally look at an old belief and you stop seeing it as some unchangeable law of physics. Instead, you see it for what it is, a line of code. And code can be rewritten. The entire shift is from passive acceptance to active executive choice. You get to decide which story supports the mission. So here it is, the protocol itself. It's 3 simple but incredibly powerful steps. Step 1 is awareness. Just pause and notice the old story when it pops up. Don't fight it, don't argue with it, just observe it like it's a piece of external data. Step 2 is inquiry. Ask yourself a simple strategic question. Does this belief actually support the leader I'm becoming? And finally, step 3 is choice. You physically write down what is actually true for you right now. And I'm telling you, that simple act of writing it down, it's like signing a new executive order for your own mind. And that really is the fundamental principle here. Your beliefs, they're just the building materials, but you are the architect. You have the ultimate authority to decide which materials are solid and which ones need to be tossed out. At the end of the day, you get to choose what stays in the final structure. So, where does all this lead? What's the outcome? Well, once you start using this protocol, you're not just renovating anymore. No, you're building on an entirely new foundation. A foundation built on freedom. You know, so often we hear the word responsibility and we immediately think of blame. But that's a total legacy mindset. That's the old way of thinking. In this new architecture we're talking about, the goal isn't to figure out who to blame for the old, shoddy blueprints. Forget that. The goal is to claim the freedom to draw your own.
And this really is the new definition we have to operate with. Responsibility. It's not a burden. It's the highest form of entrepreneurial freedom you can have. It's the power, it's the privilege to be the sole author of your story and the final architect of your success. It's the ultimate executive function.
So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. Those old blueprints you inherited, they're officially obsolete. Done. They simply cannot support the scale of your vision. So the real question isn't about getting validation from the past anymore. The question is, are you ready to step into your role as the lead architect and direct the redesign yourself? Are you ready to lead?